Divinely revealed. 7 miraculous reasons God chose you over your siblings for his sacred purpose. In a quaint village of Dunsmuir, where rolling hills roll like whispered prayers and ancient chapels stand like sentinels, something miraculous was about to unfold. The air crackled with divine energy, thick with holy anticipation. Mary, the eldest daughter of the steadfast Thompson family, felt it deep in her bones. A truth was on the brink of revelation, and she could hardly contain her excitement. This Sunday morning, the sun broke through gray clouds, casting golden light into the church, illuminating the flickering candles that danced like angels in their joyful song. Mary's heart raced as hymns filled the air, their melodies entwining with her yearning soul. Suddenly, an elderly man rose from the back of the church, his eyes glistening with an otherworldly spark. He approached Mary, pearls of wisdom tumbling from his lips like manna. "You are chosen, my dear. God's sacred purpose awaits you." His voice was thunderous yet gentle, reverberating through her very core. Just as Mary's heart began to swell with hope, the first sign appeared. Old Mrs. Hargrove, once frail and bedridden, stood up, her face aglow. "I'm healed," she cried, her voice ringing in joyous disbelief, invigorated by a holy touch. Gasps erupted from the congregation. Was this the first sign of the miraculous wonders Mary had been chosen to witness? As fervent whispers swept through the pews, divinely orchestrated events unfurled, with roses blooming in winter and crops flourishing in barren fields. It seemed that with every prayer, life surged from the depths of despair. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Mary's heart brimmed with untamed faith, yet doubt lurked in the shadows. With her father gravely ill and their bakery crumbling, anxiety clouded their home. Desperate for clarity, nights blurred into days as she poured her heart out in fervent prayers, seeking answers among the echoes of her cries. In the silence, she felt whispers of hope. A light flickered in the distance, and miracles began taking shape. Villagers spoke of sudden healings, and hope ignited in those once lost in despair. Yet her siblings gazed upon her revelation with scorn and skepticism. As Mary gathered them one evening, her trembling voice carried prophetic winds. "I'm called for more." The words dripped from her lips, ripe with determination. But her brother scoffed. "God doesn't he pick favorites, Mary?" The rift between them grew, each sibling wrestling their own battles. Mary questioned if her call would sever the ties that bound them. Nights surrounded her, swirling doubts cloaking her spirit as she wrestled under the weight of her father's failing health. But curiosity bloomed where faith once faltered. A dim light shimmered. Could her chosen path bring healing not only to herself, but to her fractured family? As rain pelted against window panes, a storm brewed within Mary's heart. Would she risk everything for a divine calling? As thunder rumbled outside and shadows danced like phantoms in the corners of her room, an electric pulse jolted through her. The same prophetic words echoed in her soul, rekindling her faith. Yet amidst the rising tension, the final question loomed: could she unite her family once shattered by doubt, or would her divine purpose set her on a solitary path? The air thickened with hope as they stood at the precipice, and the divine mystery began to weave through the threads of their lives. As dawn kissed the village of Dunsmuir, Mary found herself alone in the church. The warmth of the sun spilled through the stained glass, painting vibrant patterns across the cool stone floor. Here, in this sacred space, her heart unfolded like a flower seeking light. She knelt, pouring her soul into prayer, her spirit yearning for clarity amid doubt. "Lord, show me the way," she whispered, her voice trembling, but the silence was thick. Yet within that silence a stirring began, a pulse of energy that tickled the nape of her neck, igniting her senses anew. The walls of the church vibrated softly with unseen power, sending a shiver through her. It was then that she heard a rustling sound from the corner. Turning her gaze, she spotted an old, wooden altar overflowing with wildflowers, their vivid colors alive in the stillness. Suddenly, intrusive thoughts surfaced. How can I be chosen? How can I fulfill your purpose amid strife? Tears welled in her eyes as her heart wrestled with self-doubt, forbidden thoughts threatening to unravel her newfound hope. The burden of her family's struggles felt insurmountable. Their bakery, once thriving, now teetered on the edge of ruin. Just as her father's health did as she gathered herself to leave, she heard the gentle creak of the door behind her. It swung open softly, revealing a figure silhouetted against the brightening sky. Sister Agnes, the wise matriarch of their village, approached with a knowing smile. "Mary," she said softly, "the Lord has placed a shining light in you, but you must learn to embrace it fully." Mary's heart raced. "Sister, I feel the pressure of my family's burdens. How can I bear it all?" "Faith isn't about bearing the weight alone," said Sister Agnes, gently placing her hand on Mary's shoulder. "It is about sharing it as you trust in him." With those words, a spark ignited within Mary. Hope fluttered like a butterfly, showing her that she need not walk this path in solitude. Days passed, but each one held its miracle. Old Mrs. Hargrove often visited the bakery with baskets filled with freshly baked bread. Children laughed in the village square, their smiles brighter than the sun overhead. Each act of kindness and each prayer whispered added momentum to the stirrings within Mary's heart. It was as if the village itself was responding to her calling, lifting her spirit higher. Yet, her family remained caught in a tide of doubt. That evening, tensions boiled over at dinner. The air was thick with unsaid words. "You think you're so special, don't you?" her brother snapped, shattering the fragile silence. Mary felt her heart sink. "No, I don't. I'm scared," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I believe God is asking something of me. And us." Her father, his voice weak yet resolute, raised his gaze from his plate. "Mary, the family needs your strength now more than ever. Whatever it is God has placed in your heart, we will face it together." The shock of his words hung in the air like a prayer suspended. A flicker of hope ignited among them. Could their struggles disperse like mist in the dawnlight? Was it truly possible that she could carry them all into divine purpose? As darkness fell, Mary stood at her window, watching stars begin to twinkle across the sky. They seemed to whisper back, igniting a wild yearning within her soul. God's purpose was unfolding, and she felt ready to leap into the unknown. Just then, a bright flash illuminated the night sky, startling her. What was that? It felt like confirmation. Suddenly, an incredible idea formed. Could that moment not just be something for her alone, but a sign calling her family to unite in faith and love? With her heart racing, the question loomed large: what was her next step? And where would it lead them all? Would they take that leap together? The dawn of a new day broke over Dunsmuir, and with it came the promise of hope. Mary rose early, her heart still swollen from the thoughts that had filled her dreams. She carried the weight of her family's turmoil and the blossoming vision in her heart like precious cargo. As she stepped outside, the air was fresh, tinged with the scent of dew-kissed grass and the distant aroma of bread baking in the oven. The village was waking up, each sound and sight awakening within her a sense of urgency. She felt a lightness in her step, as if something sacred was urging her onward. With each stride toward the bakery, her mind played over the words from Sister Agnes. "You must learn to embrace it fully." Mary thought about what that meant, embracing not just the joy of hope, but also the heaviness of responsibility. How could she bring her family along on this journey of faith? As she reached the familiar wooden door of the bakery, a deep breath calmed her racing thoughts. Maybe today was the day to share her newfound vision. Perhaps she would gather her family, and together find the courage they needed to unite in faith. Inside, The warmth of the oven enveloped her, filling her with a sense of belonging. But the commotion was already brewing. Her mother was at the counter, kneading dough vigorously. Shadows hung over her face, etched with worry. Mary could sense her mother's internal struggle. "Morning, Mum," Mary said softly, taking a moment to pour a cup of tea. "Morning, dear," her mother replied, without lifting her gaze. Mary took the cup to her father, who was seated at the table, his hands wrapped around a mug. He looked weary, yet there was a flicker of strength behind his eyes. Just then, Mary's brother entered, slamming the door behind him. His frustration bubbled over as he glanced at the empty shelves. "We need to do something. The bakery is failing." "James," their mother replied, her voice a careful blend of patience and hurt. "We know, we're trying." Mary felt her heart tighten, seeing the stress etched across their faces. "What if—" she began hesitantly, gathering her courage. "What if we came together? What if we prayed for guidance?" Her brother scoffed. "You think prayer will fix everything?" Mary stood taller, grounded by the truths she had recently embraced. "It brought me hope. Maybe it can bring us all strength." Her father looked up, the weariness deepening in his gaze. "Mary has a point, James. We've been burdened with fear long enough. It's time we lean on faith." Silence hung in the air, heavy yet charged with potential. Mary could feel them wavering, teetering on the edge of doubt and belief. She seized the moment. "Let us gather together tonight, just the four of us. We can pray and share what's on our hearts. I believe something divine is calling us." The eyes of her family turned toward her, questioning but curious. A soft flame of hope flickered between them, a glimmer that perhaps, just perhaps, this could be a turning point. Mary glanced outside at the brightening sky. "We could watch for signs, share our fears and dreams with each other. I know we can do this together." As the day wore on, Mary felt the shift. The bakery began to feel less like a burden and more like a canvas awaiting their collective creativity and faith. She sensed a tiny shift in her brother's demeanor. He began to help without being asked, a softness layering his frustration. With the sun dipping below the horizon, Mary prepared for that evening's gathering, praying that what awaited them would be transformative. She set aside a small space in the bakery, adorned with candles that flickered like stars, whispering of divine possibility. Later, as they all sat around the table with nervous anticipation, Mary's heart raced. Would they open themselves up to faith? Chaos and worry hung heavily from their shoulders, but maybe, just maybe, the night would reveal their path forward. As she clasped her hands together, the moment felt sacred. With a deep breath, she looked at each of them, feeling the weight of their shared journey. "Let us see what God has in store for us tonight." A hush fell over them, thick with sacred expectancy. Could this really be the beginning of their divine purpose? What signs would guide them, and what destiny awaited them just around the corner? The candles cast a gentle glow, their flames dancing softly as Mary looked at her family, their faces illuminated with a mix of hope and uncertainty. There was a stillness in the air, almost palpable, as they prepared to lay bare their hearts before the Lord. It was a moment steeped in anticipation, a sacred space where faith could breathe. "Lord," Mary began, her voice steady yet tender, "we come before you with open hearts. We seek your guidance, your wisdom, and the strength to carry our burdens together. Show us the path, dear Father." As she spoke, a warm rush enveloped the room. It was as if the very walls of the bakery held their breath. Mary's mother wiped away a stray tear, finally lifting her gaze to meet Mary's. In that moment, the grandmother's voice echoed in her heart, reminding her of the family prayers that had once filled these walls with comfort and connection. I feel lost, Mary," her mother confessed softly. "Every day feels heavier. How do we find joy in this struggle?" Mary reached out, placing her hand over her mother's. "We have to lift those burdens to God. We can be each other's support, just as He supports us." James glanced between them, his frustration reminiscent of a storm on the horizon. "But what if nothing changes? What if we pray and still hear silence?" he asked, voice laced with doubt. A stillness settled back in. Sometimes, Mary offered quietly, silence is where God prepares something greater. Encouraged by her words, James leaned in. I guess I've never thought of it that way. What if prayer is the spark we need? Their father, who had remained silent, now spoke with unexpected depth. Circumstances may not change in an instant, but our hearts can. We must seek his purpose, whatever that may look like. As they passed a moment in quiet thought, Mary closed her eyes, envisioning a family woven together by faith. She prayed silently, Lord, may this night be a turning point. Open our eyes and fill us with your Spirit. Suddenly, a draft stirred the candles, flickering wildly before settling back. It felt like a gentle sigh from heaven, kindling a spark of faith within each of them. Did you feel that? James said, awe creeping into his voice. Her mother nodded slowly. It's as if she paused, searching for the right words. It's as if he is among us now. Mary's heart raced with excitement. I believe he is. Let us keep praying, and let us share our fears, our dreams. She looked from one face to the next, feeling a courage spill into the cracks of their hearts. What if we put our worries on the table tonight? We could trust God with them. One by one, they began to speak of their worries of the bakery as challenges, the pressures of life, and the dreams that felt far away. Each word poured forth like a healing balm, the burdens lightening with every confession. As Mary listened, she felt the weight fall from their shoulders. Every fear shared was another thread woven tighter into their bond. They weren't facing these trials alone. They had each other, and above all, they had God. Later, as they came together to pray one final time, Mary felt an inexplicable peace settle over them. It was not the silence of numbness, but a vibrant stillness, full of promise. Let's ask God for a sign, she said, emboldened. Something that shows us he hears our cries. Just then, the wind picked up outside, rustling the leaves and causing the bakery's door to creak ever so slightly. A soft smile spread across Mary's face. He is listening. We just need to remain faithful. A gentle light shone through the window, illuminating the small space as they sat huddled together. It felt to Mary like divine confirmation that they were on the right path. As they concluded their time together, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. Mary held her breath, excitement mixed with uncertainty. What sign would God send? Would they be brave enough to embrace whatever lay ahead? The night grew deeper, the hour late, but before they separated, they whispered their hopes for tomorrow. Would the dawn bring what they sought? And would they be prepared to act upon the signs to come? The dawn broke gently over the bakery, its light spilling through the windows like a divine invitation. Mary awoke with a sense of hope dancing in her heart. She could still feel the warmth of last night's gathering, the prayers, the shared fears, and the flickering light that had seemed so alive with promise. Today was a new day, and the signs they had asked for were waiting just beyond the horizon. As she made her way down the familiar creaky stairs, the aroma of freshly baked bread greeted her like an old friend. It filled her with a sense of comfort, a reminder of the love that had built this place. Stepping into the kitchen, she found her father kneading dough, each movement rhythmic as he breathed life into their daily work. Mary couldn't help but smile at the sight. "Morning, Dad," she called out, her voice bright. "Good morning, Mary," he replied, pausing for a moment, flour dusting his hands. "I've been thinking about what we prayed for last night." "Yes." Her heart quickened at the thought. "Do you feel anything different this morning?" He nodded slowly, a twinkle in his eye. "I feel a stirring, like the wind before a storm. Something is coming." Just then, James burst through the door, excitement bubbling in his stride. "Mary, you won't believe it," he exclaimed, breathless. "I stopped by the market on my way here. I don't know how to explain it, but everyone was talking about our bakery. People were so enthusiastic. They want to help." Mary's heart soared. "Really? How?" "I met a woman who owns a local cafe. She said she has heard of our bread, and she mentioned organizing a community event. She wants us to showcase our bakery." In that moment, Mary felt a thrill of possibility. It was more than just a chance to sell their bread. It was an opportunity to connect, to share their story, their struggles, and their faith. This is it. This could be the sign we've been waiting for. Her father looked at her, and James, eyes gleaming with encouragement. Let us put our hearts into this. But remember, it's not just about the event. It's about sharing who we are and what God has done for us. Inspired, they began to brainstorm ideas for what they could bring to the event. Recipes were revisited, stories were shared, and laughter intermingled with aspirations. The bakery felt alive, overflowing with purpose. But as they prepared, a soft unease flickered in Mary's heart. Would they truly be ready to take this leap? Would they find the courage to showcase their journey before the community? The thought lingered, stirring like a shadow at the back of her mind. It was a reminder that every path of faith has its trials. And yet, every trial carries the seed of transformation. That afternoon, while Mary was busy mixing dough, she glanced out the bakery window. A gentle breeze rustled the trees, the sunlight almost golden as it painted the world outside. In that brief moment, she sensed the presence of something greater, a divine whisper echoing her own hopes. It reminded her of last night's prayer. Perhaps this was the sign after all. But then, doubt crept in again, darkening her thoughts. What if they put their hearts on display and faced rejection? Her phone chimed, breaking the quiet. A message from her mother appeared on the screen. I'm proud of us. Let us keep trusting God. We're in this together. A smile spread across Mary's face. She was not alone in this. Together, they would step forward in faith, ready to embrace whatever unfolded. With renewed determination, she rolled the dough into perfect rounds. Today was just the beginning. The miracle of connection through faith was unfolding, and she was ready. What would this community event bring? Would more signs follow, leading them further along their destined path? Each rolling pin stroke echoed the anticipation bubbling within her soul, whispering that the real journey was just starting. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the bakery, excitement filled the air. Mary could feel the energy crackling like the warmth of fresh yeast rising in the dough. Her heart raced as she, her father, and James gathered around the large wooden table they draped with crisp white cloth. They had a vision, and it was time to bring it to life. What if we created something that tells our story? Mary proposed, fervent eyes lighting up. Not just the bread, but our journey. Every loaf has a piece of us. Her father nodded thoughtfully, flour smudged on his cheek. That is a beautiful idea, Mary. Let us incorporate our struggles, our prayers, and the faith we've held onto through every season. James, always the dreamer, chimed in with a spark. We could even set up a small corner where people can share their stories too. It'll show them they're part of something bigger. As they brainstormed, Mary's earlier unease began to melt away. The very air around them felt charged with hope, just like the aroma of bread baking in the oven. Each idea they shared ignited anticipation, like kindling waiting to grow into a glorious flame. Yet, amid their excitement, a familiar fear flickered in Mary's mind. How many people would actually come? What if they felt inadequate? What if their vulnerability was met with ridicule? She quietly tucked those thoughts away, reminding herself of the unwavering support from her mother, the prayers, and the presence that had been with them all along. As night descended, they worked late into the hours. The bakery was filled with the sounds of animated conversation, laughter, and the soft crunch of ingredients being measured. Mary felt a warmth envelop her as they craft their pastries and breads, blessed with a sense of connection to a divine purpose. Each rising dough and every hour spent crafting their creations felt like an offering, a prayer woven into the very fabric of their work. Suddenly, a knock interrupted their joyous gathering. They looked at each other, curiosity and apprehension mingling in the air. It was Ruth, the woman from the cafe, holding a basket overflowing with colorful fruits, vibrant vegetables, and a few bottles of local honey. "Hello, everyone," she greeted, her beaming smile infectious. "I couldn't resist coming by with some gifts for the event." I believe in what you're doing." The warm welcome wrapped around Ruth like a loving embrace, and her presence felt like an affirmation of their shared mission. A bonding between kindred spirits who understood the depth of faith and the beauty of community began to form. Mary took a moment to absorb the sights and sounds around her, the laughter echoing off the walls, the infused scents of flour and yeast mingling with the fresh produce. It was a glimpse into something grander, as if they were all participating in a narrative written by something far beyond them. "Would you like to join us in sharing your story at the event?" James asked, his enthusiasm lighting the room. Ruth's eyes sparkled. "Yes, that would be wonderful. It's all about connection, after all." As they spoke of their dreams, a weight lifted from Mary's heart. With each exchange, she felt more assured, more empowered. They were not simply passing through life. They were weaving tapestries of faith, love, and hope that would resonate long after the last piece of bread had been enjoyed. Yet in the depths of her heart, a lingering question stirred a whispered thought that refused to fade. What if this event was only the beginning? What if somehow this gathering was part of a larger divine orchestration? As they resumed their work amidst the growing excitement that hung in the air, she pondered the connection they had forged. Because what they were creating went far beyond baked goods, it was about the harvest of faith, resilience, and community ready to bloom. What awaited them at this community gathering? Would their humble offerings touch more lives than they ever dreamed possible? With every knead of dough, Mary felt an assurance rising within her, knowing that perhaps their stories were meant to change hearts in ways only God could foresee. The following days were a whirlwind of preparation. The bakery, now a vibrant hub of creativity and faith, buzzed with energy that permeated every corner. Mary, her father, James, and Ruth came together daily, sharing ideas, kneading dough, and decorating the space with handmade signs inviting the community to join in. Laughter mingled with the scent of baking bread, creating an atmosphere thick with hope and promise. As they decorated the walls with colorful stories and moments of grace, Mary felt a shift within her spirit. Each piece of paper hung there illustrated a personal triumph or a moment of surrender. It was as if their struggles were now part of the tapestry of something much larger than themselves, woven together by unseen hands. One evening, after they cleaned up from a busy day, Mary sat quietly, contemplating the approaching event. The stars peeked in through the windows, glimmering like points of divine light. Her heart fluttered at the thought of the witnesses who might arrive, faces of strangers and friends, whose stories might intertwine with theirs. "Do you think they'll share?" she asked, breaking the silence that had settled like a comforting blanket. Ruth, folding a colorful banner, looked up, her eyes shining. "If we create a safe space, then yes. People want to be seen. They want to be heard. We're inviting them to be vulnerable with us." Just then, James burst in with a twinkle in his eyes. "You should have seen the look on Mrs. Thompson's face when I explained our plans. She hugged me and promised her famous apple pie for the event." Laughter erupted in the small bakery. Mary found joy in the little things, the way laughter danced in their conversations, and how hope shone from each shared memory. As they continued their preparations, Mary couldn't shake the feeling that something profound awaited them, as if every moment, every second spent preparing, was leading towards a remarkable divine encounter. She was caught between excitement and a deep yearning that resonated within her soul. "Are we really ready for this?" she voiced out loud, a hint of doubt creeping back in James, ever the grounding presence, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Remember, it's not just about us. Every loaf, every story shared, is an offering. God will take care of the rest." Mary nodded, reassured, even as her heart quickened at the thought of launching their vision into the world. She could almost perceive a divine whisper, calling her to trust. Then it struck her again, the lingering question nestled in her heart. What if this gathering was more than just an event? What if it was a catalyst for something greater? Overwhelmed with anticipation, she closed her eyes, reflecting on the journey thus far. In her quiet moments, she felt surrounded by angels, there to nudge them toward their purpose. The day of the event arrived. Mary could scarcely contain her excitement, the electricity in the air palpable. With the bakery draped in colorful decorations and the aroma of baked goods wafting through the open doors, she could feel God's presence intensifying around them. Friends, neighbors, and some newcomers arrived, filling the room with warmth and community. With every shared story, every slice of bread offered, Mary sensed that they were standing at a divine intersection of paths. Lives were being touched, hearts were being opened, and the air vibrated with gratitude. What was meant to be a gathering had transformed into a holy quiet, a sacred moment woven into the fabric of their community. Mary looked around and felt the weight of love, transformation, and connection. But as the evening began to unfold, she felt a stirring deep within. What if there was something more waiting just beyond their gathering? Something that would reveal itself in ways they could never expect. As she gazed into the crowd, she sensed that the real journey was just beginning. Would they follow where their faith led? Would they be willing to embrace whatever divine surprises awaited them next? The answers hovered on the horizon like morning light, just waiting to break through. Amid the hum of conversations and laughter, Mary found herself seeking solace in the small kitchen corner. She leaned against the counter, the warmth of freshly baked bread still emanating from the ovens. The faint sounds of joy from the gathering spilled into her heart, yet her mind wandered to the unexpected stirring within her spirit. As she closed her eyes, the gentle embrace of the moment enveloped her. A voice deep within whispered, "What if this is just the beginning?" It was a question wrapped in both wonder and challenge. It called her to step forward, not just as a participant in this event, but as a catalyst for something even more profound. The rich scent of cinnamon and sugar floated through the air. Mary could almost hear the echoes of stories waiting to be shared, lives longing for connection. She took a deep breath, allowing gratitude to wash over her like a warm blanket. This gathering was not simply about food or fun. It was divine purpose unfolding before her. Suddenly, Ruth appeared beside her, a knowing smile touching her lips. "You're thinking about it, aren't you?" The sparkle in her eyes mirrored the wonder that danced in Mary's heart. What if it becomes a place where we truly heal? Mary's voice trembled with unspoken hopes. "I feel something immense is hiding in the wings." Ruth nodded thoughtfully, her gaze shifting to the crowd. "Our stories are like ingredients. We combine them, and what emerges is something beautiful, a loaf of life, renewed and whole. Sometimes it takes a little breaking to experience the rising." Mary felt a tender pull at her heart, not entirely understanding the weight of Ruth's words, yet fully embracing the essence of what was said. Was there something redemptive waiting to emerge from their shared pains and joys? Just then, the door swung open. In walked a woman wrapped in a vibrant scarf, her face bright as a sunflower. It was Clara, someone Mary had always admired from afar, but never truly knew. Clara smiled warmly, canvassing the bakery with eyes filled with wonder before she approached Mary. "Is this the famous gathering everyone is talking about?" Clara's voice was like music, lifting the spirits in the room. Mary nodded, her heart quickening as she sensed the impact this woman would have that night. "Yes, welcome. We're all sharing our stories and, creating community." Clara's smile widened. "I've had a few chapters in my own life. I believe stories heal, and sometimes they lead us to our true selves." An electric hush cascaded through the room as more faces turned toward Clara, eager for connection. Mary felt it, the spirit of hope stirring in the air, like a breeze getting stronger and more alive. Suddenly, James raised his voice from the other side of the room. "Who is ready to share their first story? Let us not wait for the perfect moment. Let us create it right now." With that, hands shot up, cautious laughter mingling with eagerness. One by one, they began to share glimpses of their lives. An elderly man spoke of love lost and found. A young mother recounted struggles that shaped her faith, and a teenager revealed dreams held tight within her heart. Mary stood rooted, as if watching a sacred dance unfold. Each story was like a brick laid in the foundation of something far bigger. She couldn't help but wonder what miracles were brewing here, what healing would come from the sharing. As the stories intertwined, she felt a flicker of anticipation swelling as a deep and divine truth began to emerge. It wasn't merely about the event or her bakery. It was about something cosmic, weaving lives together as one. A soft murmur swept through the crowd, the atmosphere thick with understanding, love, and a sense of belonging. Mary's heart raced. She wanted to leap with joy, but she realized they were still standing on the threshold of discovery. Just then, a burst of laughter erupted from Clara, and everyone turned once more. The evening itself felt alive, charged with purpose. But what would they build next, now that they had discovered this sacred unity? Would they step boldly into the next chapter, fully ready to embrace the unfolding journey ahead? As Mary's eyes sparkled with hope, she felt a wave of divine expectancy wash over her. She knew this was merely a prelude to what God had in store for them, what awaited just beyond their fragile beginnings. The mystery hovered like a promise of dawn, waiting to reveal its wondrous light. The laughter settled like gentle waves, creating an atmosphere thick with shared anticipation. Mary felt that divine pulse among her friends, a heartbeat resonating through their interlinked stories. Each voice, each life shared, wove a tapestry of spirits united by loss, hope, dreams, and healing. It was intoxicating. How could something so simple, a gathering sparked by bread and stories, feel like a holy communion? Clara, with her bright smile and infectious energy, took center stage. "I want to share something," she began, her tone both light and deeply serious. "When I was younger, I faced a storm in my life. I lost my way, but a single act of kindness stirred my heart. I remember it as if it were yesterday. A stranger offered me a warm cup of tea on a cold night. That simple gesture ignited a journey back to understanding God's love." As Clara spoke, others leaned in, captivated by her words. Mary could see the flickers of recognition in faces around her. Everyone carried their own storms, their own moments of despair, and here was Clara, illuminating the potential for miracles in the mundane. "I learned that our stories are not just for us. They're breadcrumbs for others lost in the dark," Clara continued. "We shine light, heal one another, and find purpose together. There is something beautiful waiting at the end of each story if we are brave enough to tell it." An inviting warmth flooded the room, wrapping around Mary with comfort. Each shared moment felt like spoken truth, revealing layers of faith. She sensed the weaving of souls, like a divine loom working tirelessly to create a community tapestry. James, inspired by Clara's words, stood up next. "When I was a teenager, I faced rejection, a painful experience that made me question my worth." He took a deep breath, glancing around at the circle of friends. "But as I grew in faith, I realized that God's plan aims higher. I began to understand that each rejection was just redirection. That story doesn't just end there. It now serves as a message of hope for others experiencing similar pains." With every story shared, Mary felt her own heart begin to knit together with the hearts of the others in a way she hadn't realized was possible. Each voice echoed God's purpose, each struggle met by triumph, each wound accompanied by a healing journey. My dear friends, she found her voice rising with fervor. What if we lived with this very essence? What if we carried these light gusts into our bakery, into our lives, into our streets? What if every day became our chance to ignite someone else's path back to love? A ripple of excitement and soft murmurs pulsed through the crowd. It was as if they were awakening to a grand calling, one that extended far beyond the walls of that small, warm bakery. Clara beamed at Mary. "Let us make this a weekly gathering, a safe space where stories flow and healing springs forth like a fountain. We can invite others, create a ripple effect." "Yes," someone shouted from the back, prompting the room to erupt in enthusiastic agreement. Yet amid this joyful chaos, Mary's heart beat louder. Something fierce was rising. She suddenly felt the darkness of doubt creeping, and what if they couldn't sustain this? What if success turned their calling into just another task? Sensing her internal struggle, Ruth laid a hand on Mary's shoulder, grounding her in the moment. We only need to trust, to be faithful. God will take care of the rest. Mary nodded, encouraged but aware of the weight of the task ahead. Their journey was only beginning. The gathering buzzed with fervor. They stood on the brink of the extraordinary as the evening wore on. More stories unfurled, each one a vibrant thread stitching them closer together. Yet, as Mary glanced around, a question hovered in her spirit, echoing louder with each shared tale. How did God plan to weave these lives into a tapestry of revival, a family bursting with love and purpose? And in the silence that followed the last story, she pondered what transformations awaited them with each unfolding chapter. As the evening waned and laughter mingled with the lingering scent of baked bread, a stillness fell over the gathering. Mary looked around at her family and friends, faces aglow with hope, their hearts woven together in the divine embrace of shared stories. It was a feeling she had never known before, each voice resonating as a thread in a grand tapestry, a symphony of faith echoing through the bakery. But a flicker of doubt whispered in her heart once more. How we sustain this light? She pondered silently. Before she could dwell on those thoughts, Clara stepped forward, a spark of joy in her eyes. Let us turn this into a weekly gathering, a safe place where every story matters. We can craft a space where love flows freely, nourishing not just our bodies, but our souls. Cries of agreement bubbled up from those around her. Yes, let us share our burdens and joys, someone exclaimed, and Mary felt a rush of warmth flow through her. This was the sacred community they'd been yearning for. But we must remember, Mary interjected, her voice trembling slightly with the weight of their dreams. This isn't merely about us sharing our stories. It's about being instruments of His peace. Our experiences are seeds planted to ignite hope in others. God is calling us to be vessels of His grace. An electric energy filled the room, as if angels were dancing upon the air, and her words resonated deeply within her companions. Together, they envisioned a space filled with laughter, music, and heartfelt prayers. This gathering was an oasis, a sanctuary for souls weary from their burdens, where the aroma of freshly baked bread intertwined with the fragrance of faith's excitement rippled through the group. Old Mrs. Hargrove's wise voice broke through the commotion. And let us not forget the power of prayer. We should pray together before each gathering, inviting God as Spirit to dwell among us. Yes, James exclaimed, clapping his hands together. Let us seek His guidance. Each gathering can begin with prayer, laying a firm foundation based on faith and unity. Mary's heart brimmed with gratitude. As the echoes of prayers resonated in her soul, a vision unfurled before her, a vision of their bakery overflowing with life and love. Families and friends connecting, sharing burdens and blessings. A community built on faith rising like fresh bread from the oven. Ruth chimed in, stepping closer. Our stories have the potential to heal not just us, but reach beyond these walls. We must take it to the streets, share this message with others who feel alone. Mary's heart leapt. What if we hosted a community event, a festival of faith, a day filled with activities, storytelling, and sharing meals? We can invite everyone to participate. Cheers erupted, and her heart soared. A festival of faith, this was the manifestation of their dreams, a chance to unveil God's love to the world outside their bakery, spreading hope like warm rays of sunshine on a cold winter day. As they continued to flesh out their plans, the atmosphere buzzed with fervor. They exchanged ideas, laughter spilling over like waterfalls of joy cascading through the air. This gathering was just the beginning. The bond they shared was a bridge to something greater, a call to transcend their individual stories into collective purpose. Mary's heart danced, filled with a fierce acknowledgement of the divine presence around them. She turned toward her family, the foundation that fortified her spirit. You all are my greatest strength. Whatever we face, we will face together, hand in hand. As they clasped hands in a circle, the world around them faded away. Each of their voices rose in a unified prayer, words steeped in faith and determination, asking God to bless this journey, to empower them with strength, and to illuminate their path forward in that sacred space. There was no doubt, no fear, only unwavering faith ignited by love and purpose. With that unity, they could embrace whatever came next, moving boldly into the future God had prepared for them. That night, as they shattered the chains of isolation and fear, they stepped into a promise of divine calling, transforming their lives and the community around them. Just like bread rising and baking in love, hope, and faith. And the story wasn't over. It had just begun now. Dear friends, it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories that will transform your life. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is essential. Comment below with your reactions and testimonies about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this divine manifestation. True servants of God know the importance of supporting our mission. Through these actions, let us make a vibrant community together.